the Grizzlies' 2022 season ended a couple of weeks ago, but before we close the books on this season, we wanted to have one final visit with head coach Brice Vignery. And Coach, I want to review the season and talk a little bit about next year, but as always, good to see you.
Good to see you. It's hard to believe the season's over. We're full-fledged into recruiting now, but it's always good to reflect and look back on what we did this last year.
Well, what you did was 8-4, and we find out today that you finished 9th in the nation. Do you feel that's an accurate rating?
I do. I think anytime you can finish in the top 10 in anything, especially in athletics or anything like that, it proves that you were in the top 10% of the country, in the top 10 of the teams out there. And I feel like it was a good culmination. That was our goal going into the bowl game, is go down there, get a win, and put ourselves in position to be in the top 10 going into the offseason and moving into next year.
Lots to talk about, but let's begin by just kind of a general overview of your feelings about your first year as head coach at Butler.
It's hard to believe it's been almost a complete year since I got the job, and that first, you look at the first couple months, it was kind of run around doing some recruiting. Then I got the rest of the staff hired, and we started spring ball, and you go into the summer, you start doing camps, and then really once the season started, it was like a blink of an eye and it was over. But I can't say enough about our staff. I can't say enough about the kids, this program, our administration, this town, how much they mean to not just me, but this athletic department, especially the football program, with the amount of people we had show up at games and the amount of support that they've shown throughout every game this year. It's hard to believe the first year's over, and they always say that first year is always going to fly by. And but there's nothing I would regret from this year. We learned a lot. I think the future of what we're doing program-wise is very bright, and I look forward to getting this next round of recruits on campus and seeing where we can take this thing. You mentioned the staff, and you definitely kept it in the family. Butler likes to talk about it's a family here, and it certainly is. And you hired 5 former players. Yeah, I think it says a lot about the program when grown men want to come back and be a part of a place that they were at when they were 18 and 19 years old. So, starting on, having Nate as our offensive coordinator, him and I, that was my first year coaching here. He was a player. So, having him lead the offense, he knows what we need to do, what we need to be offensively. And then, in his staff, you've got Justin Stolberg, who's our quarterback's coach, and Dreamus Smith, who's our running backs coach. And then defensively, Kyle Woodall, obviously him and I have been together for, going into 17 years now. So having him in that role, it's been fun to watch him grow and watch him, really evolve into the coach he is today. And then we also have Maurice Gray, who's a former teammate of ours on that side of the ball. But just having guys that want to come back and be a part of Butler, that were once a part of Butler, I think says a lot. And as you go into recruiting, that's a big thing, because everybody says family, everybody preaches family. Well, here we live it, because there's teammates on this team, there's roommates in this coaching staff and all that kind of stuff. So it's always nice to be able to pitch that when we're recruiting kids. And Coach, you told me a couple of times during the course of the season, Dennis, if we can keep this staff together, we're going to do some big things. Yeah, I just think they're very proactive. I don't really have to tell them to do a whole lot. They're always ahead in recruiting. They're always ahead in game playing. They're always a step ahead. And our staff meetings are very efficient. We know what we need to do, and we get our jobs done. So, but I firmly believe that if we can keep these guys together and we can keep taking steps forward, as this program, and the continuity next year will be a little bit better than the year after. But the first year, like I was telling some recruits this last weekend, this is the most fun I've had coaching football with this group of guys in my entire coaching career. I mean, we're not very old. We understand the game of football, but on top of that, we also understand it's about relationships. It's about, what can we do for each other and what can we do for these kids, and everybody has that mentality, and that's why, as I look at this staff, if we can keep them together, I think we've got a real shot to do something special. Okay, Coach, so let's start from the start. August 27th, the opening game of the season. Here comes 7th-ranked Garden City, huge rival, and it's your first game as head coach. What do you remember from that night? Whew, it was really hot. But I just remember, leading up to that game, what we kept telling our kids is we're going to come out of that tunnel for the opening, to take the field that first game, and we're going to know we're in better shape, and we're going to know that we're going to go out there and they're going to have to fight through us to get there. And as I looked at that message to the kids, that was the message I was giving myself. I told the kids I was going to be very emotional during, that game, that day leading up to it, the pregame speech, and then on the field. But once the game kicked off, it was just the game. it didn't seem any different other than I was talking to the officials a little bit more than normal. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it was a lot of fun to see that culmination of what we had done in the offseason to come to fruition in that game. But it was a great way to start the season, not just for the kids, but just the direction of what this season meant to us.
And the game was tied 28-28, and Jake Wolf, your quarterback, marches the team down 10 plays, 89 yards for the game-winning touchdown late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just shows we were in really good shape. Our kids never stopped believing in what we were doing, and it took a couple defensive stops here and there, and then that drive that Nate and Justin put together was fun to watch. We did a little bit of everything. We ran the ball. We threw some screens. We threw the ball down the field. We hit our tight end right down the middle.
Throw a pass to the tight end,
yeah,
Coach.
Right down the middle to Luke Fletcher for, I believe, like 36 yards.
Huge.
But we kind of did a little bit of everything, and that was really kind of the momentum starter for us. And in anything you do, you want to see, when you have success doing something, it always, goes on to the next week and the next week after that. So that's just kind of really what jump-started us that year.
So the second week, we traveled to Highland. It was a beautiful Saturday afternoon there up in Highland. And the thing I remember most, I think it was 45-3 a final. You guys win the game, but it was the one-handed catch made by AJ King.
Yeah, AJ didn't play in our first game, and that was kind of his coming out day. He had a couple catches to lead up to that, and then I remember the exact same play. We had trips into the boundary. We ran a little wheel. He ran a skinny post, and Jake threw it. And next thing I know, he's sticking it with one hand and outrunning everybody. He was kind of on fire that day, and it kind of, the next 3 or 4 games he was kind of on fire. But that was a fun one to go up there. And again, it just showed how we could change offensively and defensively to present problems for teams. And but on top of that, Dingle had a couple more touchdowns that game. It was just kind of finding our footing and finding our way, especially early in the year.
Since we're talking about AJ King, what a season for him. I mean, he was a finalist, one of the final 4 for the most valuable player in all of junior college football, 140 yards a game, all-purpose yards. What a year for the young man from East High in Wichita.
Yeah, and, we always knew he had a chance to be pretty special, even when we recruited him. And then, his freshman year, his kind of coming out party was against Touch. Had a touchdown and some catches in that game, and he just got better and better after that. And the one thing about, AJ is he's very steadfast. He's very, I'm going to be in my spot. He's a man of few words. He slowly, again, you get to see him grow up and get to see him do those things. But he was a big part of our success this year. And but he's the person that's never going to say that about himself. He knows it's a team game and a team sport. But he had such a great year, and he put some records out there, and he put some stuff out there for the record books, and I was proud to see him do all that.
Coach, in my 18 years broadcasting games for the Grizzlies, I've only missed one game, and that was this year. That was the game at Independence. I had to go. My niece was getting married out in California. But you'd mentioned to me that was the game that changed the whole season. Yeah,
it really was. I mean, we had uniform controversy leading up to it. We didn't know what we were wearing. We had all this. We get down there, and it's just, that's a different atmosphere down there. It's right next to the zoo. They've got their big blow-up skull, and that's what I was telling them. Like, weather the storm through it. Go out there. Let's score 14 quick points, and let's see how they respond to it. And it was almost like I predicted it, because we went out there. We scored on 2 offensive plays. We blocked a punt. P.J. Caldwell catches it, scores. It's 14-0 with 12 minutes to go in the first quarter, and our kids just took over from after that. And we didn't have to do as much. But again, we haven't won down there since 2015. So that was, in my eyes, that was such a big win for us to set the tone for the year. Just because they are a very talented football team, and we've struggled with them the last couple of years. So going down there, getting that win, I think set us up for other games down the road.
What a year it was. I mean, you guys, your schedule is incredible. I think you played like 7 top 10 teams over the course of the season. And I always go back to the fact that 3 of the losses, to first place, number 1, Hutch, to 5th, Snow, and to 3rd, Coffeyville, by a combined 14 points.
Yeah. We potentially are 1 point away from being in the playoff. But that's good for, as I look at it, that's really good, because we learned a lot of lessons this year. I think too much early success kind of builds in a little bit of complacency and that. So I think what we did this year, we can really learn from, and we can go out and find those 14 points now. Winter workouts, recruiting, change a few things schematically, whatever it may be. We now have, we need to go find those things this offseason. But We were in every one of those games. There's certain things, and I can remember in each game of something that I would like to have back or something I'd like to do different. But that's why you play the game, and that's why you want to play really good opponents. So you come at the end of the year, either you had a lot of close wins or you had a couple close losses, and it only makes your program and your coaching better.
Visiting with first-year head coach Brice Vignery as we review the 2022 season and also have a look ahead here at some point. Coach, I got to bring it up. I mean, all the years I've done games and all the memorable Butler games, even though it was a loss, the game to Snow here, 50-49 loss in overtime. What a remarkable game. And the way the game was tied in the end with 12 seconds to go, Malik Berry falls on a fumble in their end zone.
Yeah. No, I remember that game like it was yesterday. It almost had everything that you could imagine happen. And there was a lot of things that I had never even experienced as an assistant coach. But you think about it, we're down 28-0 at the end of the first quarter. We come back and we score 42 to their 14 to tie it back up. You're right, 12 seconds left in the game. They've got the ball on the 1-yard line. They try and quarterback sneak it. He fumbles it. We recover. We go out there. We were going for 2 to win the game. And we flinch. We had the right play call. I remember we were direct snapping it to Dingle, and he was going to walk in, and our left tight end flinched, and we ended up kicking it and going to overtime. We score on the first play of overtime. They score on the first play, go for 2 and get it. But to see, the kids battle back the way they did, they could have turned over and just said, she's over and it's done. But I think that just shows the mentality of what we do program-wise, what we do strength-wise, how we attention to detail going to class. All those things show up on Saturdays. And like I tell a lot of people, wins are just a direct reflection of doing that stuff. If you do it right and you do all those things off the field, you're able to go out there and perform on the field. But as you look at that point, I was game 3, I believe. You look at all the stuff that happened in that game. We learned more from a 1-point loss than we would have ever learned from a 1-point win. I know you never want to hear a coach say, "Oh, we lost," but I think that really kind of set us up to be able to, potentially beat these teams in the future and beat a couple really good teams later down the road. But that was kind of an up and down, all over the place type of game. It rained, it was windy, the sun came out for a little while. But again, I think it just shows where we can take this thing. And, you look at our defensive side of the ball, we've got a lot of defensive linemen coming back next year. So they're going to remember that game, and maybe we can get them on the schedule next year. You never know. But, there's a lot of things that we can take away from that game for sure.
As we review the season, there's a lot of what-ifs. And I know that injuries are a huge part of every football team. No one's exempt from injuries. But you look back, KJ Schenkel at 86 yards rushing. Your number 1 rusher was injured after the opening game against Garden City. Quavez Humphreys had 5 touchdown catches in the first 4 games, out for the rest of the year, as was Schenkel. And then in the game at Iowa Western, you lose your starting quarterback, Jake, and so you guys had to deal with a lot of injuries.
Yeah, and, playing such a violent sport, they're going to happen. And you hate to see those things happen because they had especially 2 of those, they had such a promising start. You would like to have seen what they could do, down the stretch through the season. But I think our coaching staff did a really good job of finding ways to, those were really good players for us, but finding ways to put other guys in position to be successful and give us opportunities to win games and be in games. And, as you look back at all those things, if we would have had them all, wouldn't have had so many losses, but you don't know that. That's why you play the games. But again, our coaching staff did such a great job of finding ways, especially offensively, when you lose those 2 key pieces and then you lose a quarterback, finding ways to break a mold or finding a way to get another kid into the game plan and have success and do things that they're good at. But it's a shame for them recruiting wise. Now they're both going to end up at spots, so but you would like to have seen them, especially Quavez, who's been with us for 3 years, finish out his career playing the whole way. And but he's got options to go continue to play and do all those things.
So when I mention Norman Massey, Malik Berry, and Thrash, what do you think?
Oof. Consistency. They, all 3 of those guys have been with us for 3 years, and to see them really come together, especially at that position, and then come together and lead this team, it was fun to watch. They were all 3 grown men. They all 3 understood the importance of doing the little things right. They all 3 understood the importance of being a good teammate. So those 3 will go down in my mind as some of the best players we've had here. just because you look at their journey of what they went through and what they had to do to be able to play it's quite phenomenal to play. And then they all three ended up being all conference guys. And they were all three from the state. So that's super big for us in recruiting. It's super big for just our program to show that you don't have to be this big time recruit. You can come here and you do it the right way. You're going to have the opportunities to be successful.
And whenever you bring up players, there's always that risk you're going to leave a lot out, and obviously with the football team you are, but I think Caleb Brown had a great season as well.
Yeah, Caleb, I mean, so we got him last January, and we got him kind of indoctrinated into what we were doing, and as the season went, he just got better and better and better, and I think he ended the year with 5 or 6 interceptions.
5.
Other than that one play at the bowl game, he played phenomenal, and that receiver was really good. Other than that one play, he played phenomenal. But yeah, Caleb is another kid that it's fun to see them grow up. It's fun to see them take that initiative into that role. And you look at our last 6 games, Caleb didn't come off the field ever. I mean, he played every snap of every defensive snap that we had in those last 5 games. So, and then he played on special teams, return kicks. So he was just an all-around good teammate and good football player.
Boy, we saw the emergence of Ajon Dingle. I mean, Dingle in the bowl game was pretty much all your offense. 30 carries for 165 yards, a touchdown. What a season he had. 1,200 yards rushing, 18 rushing touchdowns among the national leaders. And boy, what a find that was for you guys this year.
Yeah, it was. And, you look back at his journey here. He came into camp, kind of got hurt during fall camp, so we didn't really know what we had. And first couple of weeks, he was kind of banged up. That's why we kind of used him in certain, inside the 10 stuff red zone. I think he had like 7 touchdowns in the first 4 games or whatever. So, and then as the season went, he got healthy and he got a little bit more comfortable and he understood our scheme. And I think I don't remember which week it was, you asked if he was going to carry it 20, are we ever going to have a guy carry the ball 20 plus times? I said yes this week, and he ended up carrying it for 26. And I think he averaged 22 or 23 carries the rest of the season. But he just committed to Northern Illinois this last weekend, and so he's going to do great wherever he goes. He, even though he was here for such a short time after the bowl game, the only thing I heard him say, going around to his teammates, was saying, "Thank you for letting me come here." And he's so appreciative of everything he's got, but he's got a very bright future. But yeah, you look at his stats. If he wouldn't have been injured first part of the year, I mean, we're looking at potentially a 2,000-yard rusher or something like that. And but he's got it in there, and hopefully we can go find another one just like him.
Well, he had that sensational game at Ellsworth, 31 carries, 245 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I'm just curious, Coach, the whole season, was there a key play of the year you think was the most important play of the season?
Most important play of the season?
Because I've got one.
Oh, there's a lot of them. I don't think I can pinpoint one. Maybe the 3rd and 4, where in the bowl game, where we start out in a pro look and we motion over and Jake walks up, gets under center. We fake the dive and pitch it, and it's 1-on-1, and he gets 26 yards. That's probably the one I can think of, because that just kind of breaks our mold of what we do.
Absolutely, came out of nowhere. We were surprised in the broadcast. My play of the year would be the block punt by Mason Thrash in the bowl game. That really turned the whole game around. And I think it represents Butler football, because I want to make sure, involved in that play, you had Cade Gatchett and Aaron Woods. Yeah. 2 guys, if you looked at the stat sheet, that played, I think, a combined total of 4 games all year. Yeah. Gatchett was alert enough to recover the block punt, run down the sidelines, get hit from behind, fumbles the ball into the end zone, and hustling behind him the whole way was Aaron Woods, recovers the fumble for a touchdown. Yeah. That's Butler football.
Yeah, and then if you think about it, Mason only had to go out there because the guy that starts on it got injured, and Mason's not even on the punt rush team. He says, "I'll go." And so he just ran out there and rushed the kicker. He didn't even practice. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's guys doing what they have to do to help the team, and it's guys being willing to do those types of things. And it was, they were watching him run down the sideline, and I'm asking, who is it? And they're yelling, "It's Cade." And then I see the ball, and then they're like, "It's Aaron," and then Aaron's coming off, and I think Aaron kept the ball. So, but yeah, it's just fun to see guys have success, and especially guys that see it through to the end. Guys that understand their role, guys that understand where they fit, and they're going to do what they have to do to help us, be successful.
Another play that I think is right up there with play of the year was the 82-yard punt return by A.J. King against Snow. Yeah. That tied the game. You guys came all the way back from 28-0, and that punt return tied the game.
Yeah, if I remember right, he made like 6 people miss in a phone booth right here on our sideline, and he's going, and you're sitting there watching. You're like, okay, he's going to have a chance here, and then all of a sudden, from my vantage point, he disappeared because he's so little, and then I saw him going down the sideline, and the rest was history. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of plays out there, especially this season of special plays to me for kids to see them make those plays, and then turning points of games and seasons. And good news is we don't just have one. I think we did a good job of spreading that around. Mason Thrash's interception in the bowl game. I teased him all week, every week in his entire career. When are you going to get an interception in a game? Because he always gets one interception in 7-on-7 or something during the week. And in all the games he played, he never had one. And for him to get it at that point in that situation was so big. And there's a lot of plays out there that I think.
And that interception set up the game-winning touchdown in the bowl game, and he was the MVP.
Yes.
Well deserved for that. Okay, let's look ahead real quickly towards the 2023 season. I know you're already thinking about it.
Yeah.
And recruiting, how's it going?
Good. We just had our first big recruiting visit this last weekend. We had 22 kids on campus, and the big deal with us recruiting-wise is relationships. We're going to go out there. We're going to know these kids. We're going to know their families. So when they get here, it's all about what can we do to make you a better student, athlete. We already know they can play football, but we want to give kids the full experience when they get here. And so we are full-fledged into that. I told the staff we've been going nonstop, in-home visits, high schools, everywhere since the bowl game got over. And then I told them, let's get through the recruiting visit this last weekend, and we'll take a break, and because most kids are on Christmas break, and we'll have Christmas, and then right after that we pick up the month of January. We'll be busy. For me especially, I think I'll only be in the office for like 6 days in the entire month. Pretty much got it planned to make sure, because again, I want to make sure these kids understand how important they are to our future and what we can do for them athletically and academically.
Well, we know you got a lot to replace. We mentioned the three Kansans, the linebacker, Massey, Thrash, and Barry, also Dingle, the running back, and the quarterback, Jake Wolf. And so there's a lot of needs out there, isn't there?
Yeah, but I think we've got a lot more coming back than we're losing. As you look at the amount of depth that we were able to play at certain times this year, the amount of players that got experience playing, and then that's the culture leading into the spring. We'll bring in a couple transfers that semester. Especially, you look at our wide receiver room, we kind of lose everybody. We got 2 guys back with some real playing time, so we'll bring a couple in there, and then we'll look to bring in that guy at tailback. Now, Jay Sean will be back, so I think Jay Sean's got a real shot to be really good, and then KJ's got a chance to come back. So having those 2 guys, but again, just finding the right pieces and putting it together, and it's not going to happen overnight. You just kind of have to be steadfast and be where your feet are at and just keep moving forward day by day.
How about the head coach? He's got a year under his belt.
Yeah. I mean, I'll sit and reflect and do all that over Christmas break, when I can kind of just sit back and relax and see where I can be better. And I'll talk to my mentors, and one of mine, he didn't miss too many games. So sit back and talk with him and see where I can be better and what we can do better. And the good news is it's about what we can do, not what I can do. So, and I think our staff's got that figured out to where that's the direction we're going, and that's where we're going to head.
It's my understanding we just flipped the schedule for next year, right? Does that mean we open on the road at Garden City probably in late August?
Yep, we open on the road at Garden, and then we'll just have to fill a couple non-conference games, which we'll probably get done the next month or so.
Well, Coach, man, congratulations. First year head coaching job, former player here and assistant coach, offensive coordinator for 7 years. You get the job a year ago, 8-4 season. You finished 9th in the nation. Congratulations.
Thank you
Great
so
job.
Much. Thank you.
All right, we've been visiting with head coach Brice Vignery of the Butler Grizzlies, reviewing last season and looking ahead to 2023. We'll talk to everybody for Grizzlies football next August when they take on Garden City.